I've decided to bake a cake, carrot cake, my favorite cake of all. And I'm not a very great cook, but I realize as I'm reading the back here that there's very specific instructions. It tells you what you have to mix together, when you mix it together, and exactly what to do. And as I was thinking about this, I realized it's a lot like mathematics. You know, mathematics is an exact science, and a lot of what we do is simply following a recipe. For example, if I want to simplify an expression, 3 plus 2 times 5, well, there's a specific order or a recipe I have to follow in order to do that. We call that the order of operations. The order of operations says we begin with the parentheses and we do everything inside of it. Then we deal with our exponents. We follow up by completing our multiplication and division in order from left to right, and then we do our addition and subtraction. Some people remember the order of these things by the word PEMDAS, P-E-M-D-A-S, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or you might even make up your own. Let's take a look at a few examples using our recipe, how we can go through and get the correct answer mathematically by following these specific instructions.
So here's our first example. We want to simplify this expression. And we know that we want to follow our recipe. The recipe says that we start with parentheses, we then deal with exponents, and then we deal with multiplication and division from left to right, and finally addition and subtraction from left to right. And so we take a look at our expression up at the top, and the first thing we're looking for is to see if there are any parentheses. And there are, and in fact right here inside that parentheses we have 18 minus 7. So that's what I'll do first. Now what I'm going to do is everything I'm not using, I'm going to just bring down. I'm not using the 2 yet, I'm not using the 3 yet. I'm just dealing with what's inside these parentheses. 18 minus 7. And 18 minus 7 is 11. And so I've just completed the first step of my recipe. I completed everything in the parentheses. Now the second part says look for exponents. There are no exponents, so nothing to worry about there. Then we're looking for multiplication and division. Well, I do have some multiplication and some division here. In fact, if I look up here, I have this 3 times 11. That's my multiplication and division. That's what I'll do next. And once again, just like before, I'll bring down the stuff that I'm not using, namely the 2 plus, and I have 3 times 11. 3 times 11 is 33. So I'm left with 2 plus 33. Now the final step of my recipe says that I should look for addition and subtraction. Well, I do have addition right here. 2 plus 33. 2 plus 33 is 35. And so in simplest form, the expression that I had right up here is 35. Notice that all I really did was I followed this recipe, PEMDAS. I started with the parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, and then addition and subtraction. I'm just following the rules. The second example, we're doing the same kind of thing. We want to follow the recipe. I'm going to write it off to the side here. P parenthesis E exponent, MD for multiplication and division, AS for addition and subtraction. So once again, the first thing I'm looking for is parentheses, and lo and behold, right here I have a set of parentheses. So we're going to clean that up. Everything I'm not using, I'm just going to copy down, like this 2 in front of the parentheses, the squared that's up top outside of the parentheses, and the plus 6. I'm not using any of that yet. I'm really only dealing with the stuff that's in yellow. Now the 5 minus 3 happens to be 2. 5 minus 3 is 2. I've taken care of my parentheses. Now the next thing in my recipe says E, exponents. Do I have any exponents? Well, it just so happens that I do. Right here. 2 to the second power. 2 to the second power. So that's what I'll deal with first. Everything I'm not using, I'll copy down. I'm not using the 2 out front there. I'm not using the plus 6 at the end. All I'm dealing with is the exponent here, 2 to the second power. And 2 to the second power is 4. I'm now done with my exponents. Now we'll continue along, multiplication and division. I do have some of that. I see that right here. 2 times 4, that's my multiplication and division. That 2 times 4 just conveniently comes out to be the number 8. That's one of my favorite numbers, actually. So we have 4 times 2, which is 8, and the plus 6 is right at the end there. Multiplication and division is done. The final thing I'm looking for is addition or subtraction, and I do have addition and subtraction right here. I have 8 plus 6. 8 plus 6 is 14. And so the final answer that I have here is 14. So this expression is equivalent to this one, 14. They have the same value. Just follow the recipe, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Let's take a look at one more example. Example 3 has a little bit more going on. In this example, we have all kinds of things. We have parentheses that have a whole lot of stuff inside of them. We have some numbers out front. We have some powers. We have a lot going on here. So let's write our little recipe off to the side. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. And the first thing they want me to look for is parentheses. That's where I'll begin. Well, I do have parentheses. In fact, this whole thing in here is parentheses. This whole thing is in the parentheses. So what do I do first? 2 plus 24 divided by 4. Well, there's a lot going on in there. So what I'm going to do, I have to follow the recipe. Inside the parentheses, do I have any exponents? No, not inside. There's one outside, but we're not dealing with outside yet. Multiplication and division. Is there any multiplication and division inside of that set of parentheses? Yes, there is. Right here, 24 divided by 4. So that'll be the first thing that we do inside of the parentheses. Everything else just gets copied down. 3 minus, 2 plus. I'll bring down that third power that we're going to deal with eventually. I've written down everything that I'm not dealing with yet. And the part I'm dealing with is inside the parentheses, the multiplication and division. 24 divided by 4 is 6. Now, I still have parentheses. I'm not really done yet. There's a little bit more going on in there. And I still have stuff to do inside. I now have addition and subtraction inside of there. So let's copy everything else down, and we'll deal with that little bit that's left inside. We have the 3 minus on the outside of the parentheses, the cubed, plus 5, and the 6 plus 2 comes out to be 8. Now finally, my parentheses are done. There's nothing left in parentheses except for just the number 8. So that's done. The second thing now that I need to look for are exponents. And here I do have exponents. I have 8 to the third. So that's 8 times 8 times 8. 8 to the third just happens to come out to be 512. So we'll copy everything else down. the 3 on the outside, and the 8 to the third is 512. And at this point, because there's just a single number inside the parentheses, it's not really important to write them anymore. There's just one number inside of there. You can write them if you wish to, but you don't really have to anymore. Now, multiplication or division? Nope, none of that to deal with. Addition or subtraction? Yeah, there's a whole ton of addition and subtraction this time. In fact, everything that's left is addition and subtraction. Now remember, when we add or subtract, we go in order from left to right. So we start on the left and we go in order to the right. 3 minus 512 plus 5. That comes out to negative 504. Negative 504. So the simplest form of this expression, negative 504. This and this are equivalent. They have the same value. And so even when there's more stuff thrown into the picture, in this case we had a lot of stuff in our parentheses in the beginning. We just follow the recipe step by step. Take your time, and it's not so bad to get through. Now, speaking of not so bad to get through, example 4 has a lot more stuff going on. Take a look. There's 2 sets of parentheses. There's multiplication, exponents, addition, subtraction, all the stuff going on inside. There's a whole lot going on. But we're still going to follow the same recipe. PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division in order from left to right, addition, subtraction in order from left to right. And we'll just follow the recipe right through. Now, because there's a lot going on, sometimes it's easier to just divide your page up a little bit and do half of the problem at a time. In other words, we'll do the left side first, the right side second, and then finish up. So let's start with the left-hand side. First thing we want to deal with is parentheses, and we have tons of stuff in parentheses here. So we'll look inside. Are there any exponents? Well, yes, there are. There is an exponent right here, 2 to the second power. We'll copy everything else down, and we'll deal with that 2 to the second power. We'll still have the 5 times. We'll still have the plus 3 minus 2. And we'll still have the squared. And 2 to the second power comes out to be 4. So I've done my first step, the exponent inside the parentheses. Now, we're still inside that parentheses. We're looking for multiplication and division. And I see that I have some multiplication right here, 5 times 4. 5 times 4 is 20. And so I'll copy that down. We're going to have that 20. And everything else needs to be written down, all the stuff we didn't use yet. So we still have the plus 3, minus 2, and the little squared exponent on the outside. Finally, on the inside, we're looking for addition and subtraction. Well, I have addition and subtraction all over the place in there, and in fact, the whole thing inside left is addition and subtraction. 20 plus 3 is 23, minus 2 is 21. So I'm left on the left-hand side with simply 21. And I still have the squared on the outside. So I've done the inside parentheses. This whole step is really part of this first step here. I'm dealing with the stuff inside the parentheses. Now, I also have all this stuff on the right-hand side here. And let's go inside there and take a look at that. So first thing I'll look for is, are there any exponents inside? Nope. Are there any multiplications or divisions? Yes, there are. 7 times 8. 7 times 8 is 56. So I'll write everything down that I'm not using, which means I had the 7 that was out front, and the 7 times 8 became 56. I've done my multiplication and my division inside that second parenthesis. Now, the next thing I'll look for, is there any addition or subtraction? Yep, there sure is. Here it is. It's going to be right here. 7 plus 56. 7 plus 56 is 63. So that number over there becomes 63. And let's not forget that we had a big division sign in between these two things, these two parentheses up here. We can't forget to bring that division sign down. We can't forget to write it here either. 21 squared is 441 divided by 63. 441 divided by 63 comes out to be the number 7. And so when we get done, this original expression that we had, this big original thing up here, is really nothing more than the number 7 in disguise. There was a ton going on here. It's easy to become overwhelmed or frustrated. You just need to take your time. Take your time and work inside the parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Just take your time and you'll do great. Now, the last two examples, in comparison to the one we just did, will actually seem pretty simple. Take a look at example 5. It's simply a fraction. And notice what we have here. We have a fraction bar with multiplication on the top. We have some addition down the bottom. What we do is the top first, the bottom second, and then in the end, we do this division. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do this division in the end. So let's give this problem a try. Up top, we have 4 times 7. 4 times 7 is 28. On the bottom, we have 3 plus 4. 3 plus 4 is 7. 28 divided by 7 is 4. And that's our answer. So when you have stuff on the top of a fraction in the numerator, stuff on the bottom in the denominator, just do the top, then do the bottom, and then simplify your answer at the end. Do the division. That's not so terrible, is it? Makes the last one seem much more difficult. Finally, we have number 6. 6 has 16 plus 2 squared minus 5 over 3 squared plus 2. Again, we're following the same recipe, PEMDAS. Parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. And so let's see what we'll have here. 16 in the front, and we have 2 squared, which is 4 minus 5. And so I'll bring my 16 over, and 4 minus 5 is -1. And now I just have to deal with the denominator. 3 squared is 9 plus 2. So now we're working down here. 9 plus 2 is 11. So what I have is 16 plus -1 over 11. 16 becomes 176 over 11 plus -1 over 11. And when I add those two fractions together, I have 175 over 11. So there's the game. We're working with order of operations. The order we do things makes a big difference. We have to follow the recipe. The recipe says we start with what's in parentheses, we work our way through exponents, multiply and divide, and then add, subtract. If you follow the recipe, you'll be fine. You'll have no problem. It takes a little bit of practice. Some of the examples can be much more challenging. For example, when we saw number 4, there was a lot going on there. But take your time. You know how to do this. You can do it just a step at a time.